So Spiral from the Book of Saw is the latest entry in the Saw series, now making it 9 movies within this long-running, torture porn-esque horror franchise, of which I'm a massive fan of, and it is now in theaters worldwide. Well, not worldwide just yet, it is out in Australia today, in the US tomorrow, and everywhere else over the next coming weeks. I was lucky enough to see it at an early screening last night, and I have since watched it again, because Lionsgate, after I got home and uploaded my review, actually sent me a screener link so I could watch it 2 more times in the comfort of my own home. So I've watched it again, I've written my notes for my ending explain video, but first I wanted to provide to you my ranking of all 9 Saw movies from the worst to the best. I'm aware I don't do these types of videos often anymore. I actually haven't done one since I did my Pirates of the Caribbean ranking back in like March or April last year. So here we are once again, and I'm ranking a franchise I actually give a shit about. But I'm going to be ranking every single Saw movie from the worst to the best, as I said, including Saw, Saw 2, Saw 3, Saw 4, Saw 5, Saw 6, Saw 3D, the final chapter, Jigsaw, and the latest Spiral from the Book of Saw. Now guys, before I give you my ranking, please comment down below what your ranking is for all the Saw movies. Which ones do you love, which ones do you hate, or which ones are right in the middle? Please comment down below, let me know. Now without further ado, let's jump in and get into my ranking for all 9 Saw movies. Coming in at number 9 is going to be Saw 3D, the final chapter. Although I love all of these movies in their own way, the good, the bad, and everything, it is undeniable that Saw 3D, the final chapter is my least favorite in the Saw series. Not only does this movie have an incredibly cheap look, everything in regards to the dialogue, the script, the characters is all over the place. It's incredibly messy and not the most entertaining movie to watch either. The slasher take that this movie takes with Detective Hoffman going around the precinct and everything, killing everyone and being on this murder spree to get Jill Tuck is just really silly and derails the franchise from what it originally was. And the cheap look to it as well, from the color grading and palette, alongside the traps just being incredibly lame and this pink blood being too focused on this 3D effect with the gore and everything about this film, makes this movie not just unpleasant to watch at times of an enjoyability factor, but it's also just very, very boring at times, and I don't like many things about this movie at all. There are things I like in concept, but the follow-through just isn't there. Coming in at number 8 is going to be Saw 5. This movie, oh man, the potential it had. From production designer David Hackle, this movie should have been a slam dunk in regards to traps, but unfortunately the traps, while they are cool in concept, they go too far at times. I like the pints of blood trap, but it's just too gory for the film's own well-being. And not only that, I feel it takes away a lot of the psychological attributes that made Saw so engaging in the first place, and their characters are just dumb. They're not really all that entertaining or likable, so therefore the rewatchability factor to the film just isn't there. Not only that, the whole Peter Strama onto the tale of Detective Hoffman, like, that's a cool thing and all, but unfortunately there is no evidence that Peter Strama has physically and hard evidence-wise that make it even a compelling story for us to get along on the ride, and he dies in the end. So yeah, Saw 5 is really annoying. It's easily one of the worst. It's really boring, and man, Saw 5 actually has potential behind it, but unfortunately it fucking sucks. Coming in at number 7, surprisingly enough to many of you, is Saw 3. From Darren Lynn Bousman, the director of the newest Spiral from the Book of Saw. This movie has many things I like about it, including the traps, but unfortunately one of the things that I find most interesting is the B-plot involving Lynn, Amanda, and John Kramer. But that's very few and far between. The scenes there are the most interesting in the film, and I love the dynamic that these 3 share on screen, and there is a lot of suspense and tension added to the mix with a very simple but effective trap known as the shotgun collar. But everything else in regards to the story, John Kramer going after a man who's grieving over his dead son, this is the moment that John, aka Jigsaw's moralistic values and the reason why he puts people in traps, starts to get clouded. It makes it also a very boring movie because Jeff is not a very compelling protagonist at all, always walking around and everything, just taking his sweet ass fucking time. This is the only Saw movie which is around 2 hours long, and I feel a lot of that is due to the time that Jeff takes throughout each trap, walking around the warehouse and the game that he's in. It's not a particularly interesting movie. Also, killing off Carrie in such a fucked up fashion, of which is unwinnable, but also it just derails the character and what they could have done, which would have been interesting for her character to progress along within the Saw series. It's a disappointing movie with many things about it that are interesting and likable, and there are many things such as the traps that I think are fascinating, but again, they go too far, and the most interesting part about the movie is so few and far between that this is one of my least rewatched movies in the Saw series. Although I like Saw 5 and 3D less, they're more comedies than Saw 3 was, and I watched Saw 3 less, even though I like it slightly more. Coming in at number 6, this ranking changed quite quickly, and after my review, I rewatched it just before Spiral yesterday, and the grade went down. Jigsaw. This is a movie that is so fucking frustrating because the game is simple yet effective. John's motivation is back, but the plot holes within this movie make this so frustrating to watch. The plot holes that are provided in regards to the timeline, in regards to the whole Logan character being introduced and the 10 years ago thing, making Saw 1 through 4 have to take place in 1 year, even though it doesn't add up timeline-wise at all. Not only that, the flat screen TVs in events that take place before Saw 1, where Dr. Gordon is seen using a pager in Saw 1. The technology, it just isn't there. It's a timeline issue. It's a big fucking plot hole. Then I mentioned the police investigation, which has always been one of the most interesting things about the Saw movies, is so dumbed down, so uninteresting, and just bland, and it's left you with so many more questions than answers, and you kind of just go scratching your head, and it's a very underwhelming watch. I was underwhelmed when I saw it in theaters back in 2017. I thought I liked it more, but I think I was just lying to myself when I did my review with Ryan the other day. I really don't like Jigsaw. This is bleh. Still better than Saw 3, 5, and 7 though. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Saw 4. This movie is where it just becomes a fucking comedy. The fact that Detective Rigg is able to go out into the open world is such a stupid concept while having great traps throughout, such as, you know, the bed trap where the guy gets his arms and limbs ripped off, the trap where the girl is on the skidding chair. I mean, not the skidding chair, the scalping chair. Such an awesome trap. Like, there are so many cool locations, and there is a great game in place. Detective Matthews being brought back as well, and the twist at the end is absolutely amazing. But the direction in this movie I just regard as obnoxious in regards to so many invisible cuts and transitions that derail the story and the pacing of the film constantly. And it just becomes a comedy. The acting in this movie really isn't great. The game is so stupid. You're going through doors trying to find me and everything. Now I'm going to put you in a game. I know it's more complicated than that, but even then the motivation to put Detective Rigg in this game just makes no fucking sense. The twist might be great, but this is where the series becomes a comedy, and that's why it sits right at the middle of my list. Coming in at number 4, we're getting into the Saw movies that are actually genuinely amazing. Coming in at number 4 is going to be the follow-up to the original film, and that was Saw 2. Saw 2 is a fantastic Saw movie with so many amazing traps and a game that is so amazing in so many ways. Frankie G as Xavier is absolutely incredible in this movie. Need I mention the game itself inside the nerve gas house is such a fascinating and horrifying location. It's like walking through a haunted house, but you could actually fucking die. While the traps at this point are still so simple and unique, they are so terrifying due to the simplicity behind every single trap. They're horrifying, they're simple, they're brutal, and just unforgiving. Need I mention Amanda Young, that twist at the end gets me every time as well. Detective Matthews and Jigsaw's camaraderie and conversation back and forth throughout the entire game, and realizing that all Detective Matthews had to do was wait and he would see his son again is one of the best twists in the entire series. It's so compelling. I genuinely think that Saw 2 has the best dialogue in the entire series. Saw 2 just ticks every box for an amazing Saw movie. But I just like these next 3 more. Coming in at number 3 is going to be Saw 6. Saw 6 is a movie I have such an amazing appreciation for because not only does it have a protagonist that grows and develops throughout, realizing how his policy is completely and utterly fucked, but every single game, every person has a reason to be there. They are there to test, William Easton, in the same sense of every game playing into the policies of which he has used to ruin lives and families throughout the years, including John Kramer himself. There is a personal motive to Jigsaw here, not just for, retribution for him, but also other people that William Easton has victimized over the years with his company, his policy. Every trap is brutal yet simplistic once again. The barbed wire hanging trap, the shotgun carousel, the boiler room. It's all simple and every trap is winnable for everyone. I will be talking about that when I do my series of videos talking about how to survive every trap in every Saw movie, which I want to do soon. But I just love this movie in so many ways. The political side to it is so fascinating, and everything in regards to the detectives always being on the verge of catching Hoffman throughout, and the police investigation is the most interesting shit we've seen in the Saw movies since Saw 2 in regards to a police investigation. While sometimes the pacing drags, that happens for every Saw movie. Even Saw 2 has that. But Spiral and Saw have that as well. But it's interesting. The B plot is fascinating. The trap is amazing. The game is incredible. And it has one of my favorite kills in the entire series with William Easton. Holy crap. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Spiral from the Book of Saw, the newest entry in the Saw movie, which gave me everything I wanted. I've seen the movie twice now, mainly to write my notes for my ending explained, but also to solidify that this is the spot I wanted my ranking of the movie in. I love this movie with everything it provides, with a more grounded, leveled, down-to-earth story, focusing more on the police investigation rather than the traps. They are sprinkled throughout in the same way that Saw did it in 2004, and the game, oh my god, the traps are so simple, but also very psychological. The turmoil that we experience as the viewer in regards to the pain that these people experience due to the simplicity, but the torturous nature of every trap is just horrifying. And this movie features what is quite easily my favorite trap in the entire series. I kid you not. Not saying which one, but I will be talking about it later this weekend with a spoiler video and live discussion. Oh man, I love this movie so much. It has such a rewatchability factor to it because it doesn't do what other Saw movies do. There is at least one character in this movie that has done nothing wrong, who is on the tail of this new Jigsaw killer, that is so likable and has done nothing wrong, making it that you do at least care about someone in this movie, and you do want to follow them. This character also grows. The investigation is so fascinating, interesting, and I just loved everything about this movie. Yeah, it has its issues in regards to some overacting, some humor not necessarily always working, but it did its job for a modern-day Saw film to revitalize and, you know, revive the series. The Saw series is reborn. Thank you to Spiral. Saw is fucking back, baby. And at number 1, you know it, it's my second favorite horror movie of all time, and the movie that started it all. It's the movie that made me love horror from the beginning. My first ever horror film. I was 6 years old. Saw holds a special place in my heart. I love everything about this movie. Yeah, it has a cheap look to it, but they had under $1 million to work in regards to a budget for this film. James Wan and Lee Winnell crafted a masterpiece in psychological mystery horror here. The game is simple, the best ones are, and that twist at the end surprises everyone every single time they watch it. You guys know why I love Saw. I'm not going to talk about it much, but Saw is my favorite horror movie in the Saw series. It is my second favorite horror movie of all time, and it's the movie that started my love for horror. I may have a bias in regards to its position here on the list, but I don't fucking care. But guys, what do you think of my ranking? What is your ranking? I want to see what you guys have to say down in the comments section below. And what did you think of Spiral from the Book of Saw? Do be sure to also follow on the social medias at Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Twitch to watch my live streams and keep up to date with your content coming to the channel. Do be sure to click the subscribe button and the bell to get notified when videos are up every single week. Do be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.